What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast. We talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up?
And Chris Epcon.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on? So welcome to Tuesday's episode. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursday's Ask a CISSP, and Friday's everything else, movies, books, games, and all that cool stuff. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from cardinalnews.org, written by Matt Busey. And the title of this one is Lee Enterprises says cybersecurity incident cost millions. So we actually did the story on this, I want to say. If we didn't do the story on it, I'm pretty sure we did. I remember reading about it.
We did,
So,
yeah.
Because I think we started talking about how print media was dying as well. But anyway, the company that owns the newspapers in Virginia and 24 other states says business operations were impacted by the February 3rd attack on the systems to the tune of $2 million is what they say it's going to cost them, right? Now, a lot of that was covered by insurance, right? They said insurance took care of a lot of it for them for the losses that they had. But the president and CEO, he put it out there in a news release. It's like, hey, it was restoration costs was what he called it, right? So, but they took a hit, $2 million hit. Even then, like even with this, they took a hit of $12 million for the quarter, right? So it's one of those things where they were losing money anyway, despite this happening, but this definitely contributed to it, right? Because they lost the ability to print newspapers, even their online subscriptions. They had issues with that because of the cybersecurity incident where, pages would be missing, people getting access, billing to bill people for what they were paying for was another thing. Like if you're not getting money for what you're putting out there, right? Even though it's a subpar product or an incomplete product, that hurts as well, right? So, and the second and third order effects, the long tail on this is that you get the loss of public trust, right? So you got people that may have been subscribing to one of their news providers that are like, you know what, you guys can't get this together, so I'm just going to go ahead and not subscribe to you anymore. You got advertisers that are not that have lost that confidence that you're taking care of what you need to take care of. But I think this is going to be one of those things where even now, this is like 3 months on now, 3 months past when it initially happened. They're out there saying, hey, we've recovered for the most part, right? They had some of their what do you call them? Some of their newspapers, some of their organizations that said they're fully recovered, right? They advertise as such, but you never know, right? Like it could be one of those things where like, yeah, you think you recovered, but boom, here we are. We're still in here. You didn't catch us like you were supposed to, right? That can happen. But yeah, they're trying to let their investors know what's going on, right? Yeah, we lost $2 million, but we recovered. It's covered by insurance, so it's not. They try to write it off as not technically a loss, but it's still a loss, right? Like from all those things I talked about, right? And for the quarter, you lost $12 million, right? So you can't keep doing that because any investors you have are going to be like, hey, I'm here to make money, right? Like that's why we invest in these things, right? We don't do it just for the love of the product that you put out. We put it out because there's going to be a dividend coming back our way, right?
That's right.
So like if you're not doing that, then I can't count on you to keep taking my money and spend it the way it's supposed to be spent. But Chris, what's your thoughts on this?
Literally, first thought was something that stuck out to me from last episode was attack surface management, right? So it's like it's just and the awareness of it, right? So to me, kind of like putting back my consulting hat, like the first thing I'm thinking of is like, okay, it looks like this company may or may have not done a business impact analysis, right? That's basically at a high level, right? You want to discuss with all your stakeholders, all the leadership that you have, any critical systems that you need to operate your business, right? To protect the value stream, right? But yada yada, all that stuff, right? That's necessary to continue business and how it would affect it if certain threat, risk, whatever happened to specific item, right? Or specific technology or process it might be. And so a key part of that is one, like doing testing and like tabletop exercises, just kind of walking through like hypothetical scenarios, talking to a cybersecurity professional, of course, if you don't have the in-house intellectual capital to do so, or the resources rather. But it's really understanding and planning around this kind of thing because like cyber attacks, like the risk is always present, right? It's one of those like it's not like lightning striking, right? Like there is a chance, especially if your posture isn't there, especially if you haven't conducted some type of attack surface management, right? So because with attack surface management, there's a lot of technologies out there that can help you with it, but the key thing about it is like being able to prioritize your risk, right? And then and with those inputs from a business impact analysis, and secure those aspects that are at high risk at your business. And then also, one thing too is like, when we're in the military, we train like we fight, right? We always did scenarios and things like that, right? We go through, we go through exercises in the military. I mean, same thing in the civilian sector or in the private sector, right? Not to the detail of like a military, but run through a scenario, right? What if this happened? What if power went out at this building and something happened? What if, right? And it's really about prioritizing your risk as an organization and then addressing those vulnerabilities through risks and all that, and then remediating them as you need to, as you see fit. Because we all know that there's high risks and low risks. Focus on those high and moderate risks, right? And those are all going to be unique to your specific organization. But that's really the first thing that came to my mind. I mean, like specifically, if going back to IoT and operational technology, right? Especially if you're running a printing, if you're running a printing or some type of legacy business, right? Business model, you're going to have some stuff that's not, necessarily secured. It might be end of life, right? Your products might not even be made anymore. Again, I'm not into the printing, but I'm not in the printing business, but we're not sure, right? With how much these printer companies charge with ink, I understand you don't want to get a new printer or whatever. But anyway, it might just be end of life, right? So just consider that when just doing a analysis of your organization. Pass it off to Ryan.
So look, roll up, Brian, before you go, man. So like, Chris came back with the heat. These last couple episodes, man, you're gonna get a bill for his consulting fees. Look, it's been about 10 minutes, but we're gonna call it an hour. Okay, that's what the
Yeah,
bill is.
right.
Ram Cyber is getting a bill for these
Exactly.
Start sending invoices through the radio. No, spot on. Like very good analysis. I would say I don't disagree with anything that you said about the impact and attack surface. In addition to, I would like to add, they at least did their homework when it came to their cyber coverage. So I've done 2 cyber insurance assessments this year, and basically what I'm looking for is, are you checking the box on the things that you said at underwriting? Or do you have proper identity access management? Do you have backups? Do you have a BIA on file? And it's a long list of things. I've seen some policies as specific as, here are the 25 things you need to do to be covered, and then as loose as, here are some parameters. We're going to tell you how to do business, but you have to basically meet the spirit of the law, not necessarily the letter of law, because we didn't give you a checklist. But my job working for these clients is to make sure that they are meeting those expectations, either meeting or exceeding them. So that way, if push did come to shove, the cyber insurance company would pay out. Because like, if you're not meeting their expectations, like if you don't have MFA, if you don't have proper, I'm trying to think of another stipulation. Like I've seen requirements such as, you need MFA, you need backups, you need to have a BIA on file, and your cyber insurance policy needs to be reviewed annually and be up to date. All the things that you would think would be things you would have to have anyway, right? But as a mom and pop, you might necessarily be covering those things just to make sure, like, hey, if it does go down, they're going to pay you whatever it is. So obviously they did meet their underwriting requirements. So at least they did that. You know what I mean? Like, there is a silver lining there, so that way they would get paid out, because it would be a much worse scenario to have been breached and the cyber insurance company like, we're not paying. So you're although the premium you've been paying, that, thank you, but we're not kicking anything out. So there is that.
I honestly thought that number was a little low when they said it, the $2 million number. I was like, man, that doesn't sound right. Like, if you couldn't bill people, and maybe because they eventually got it back online, they recouped some of the costs. So it's just what was lost that they could not recover after they got everything back online. But I was like, for as long as it happened, like, you waited 3 months to come out and say we're almost there, right? You had certain newspapers that were like, yeah, we're back 100%. It wasn't across the board for Lee Enterprises, right? So yeah, it seemed kind of low, but still a lot of money.
Right. And that would be even more complicated, right? Because you have the umbrella of Lee Enterprises, but then you have all these other publications underneath it, which probably have their own networks and enclaves and things of that nature. So all of them have to be to a certain level of protection. Or it could be why they didn't. Maybe the payout wasn't even across the board, right? Like, obviously, like, depending upon the damage per publication, those would all be different amounts of money. But perhaps, like, okay, let's say this one over here, and I think one of them was in Buffalo. Let's say this one over here in Buffalo was that's not not up to snuff, we're not paying for that one. But this one over here in Chicago, we will pay for. So it could be very muddled and complicated when it comes to having multiple subs underneath that prime, so to speak. So it's very interesting. Like I really enjoyed doing the assessments. They're the two of the first I've done so far, and it was just doing the research to because I rarely deal with insurance in general, but then this is so specific to a certain piece of operations, right? Because every company's not going to need cyber insurance. I would if I could make sure every company had cyber insurance, but it's those companies that specifically deal with PHI, PII, like when you're dealing with things where you can be fined by a regulator and sued civilly, like you definitely want to make sure you're covered when it comes to a potential data breach. So, and if anything, it just elevates your security posture because now not only do you have to meet the requirement of the regulator, but you have to meet the requirement of, USAA or travelers or whomever, right? Insurance company. So it does keep them on their toes as well. So, you know, it's an interesting problem to have, I should say. But I searched and searched and searched while you guys were talking to find that episode. Could not find it. I have to get better at cataloging these things. We just have too many episodes.
I was pretty sure we had done it, but I wasn't
We
totally
did.
sure. I was like, I know we did, but yeah. So,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, we did.
sometimes we just go back and forth with stuff that we see that doesn't make it to the show, and I'm like, did we talk about that one offline, or like, what was the deal? Yeah.
No, we
We're gonna
covered it.
live
And
on forever because of these repository of episodes in the internet, right? We're gonna live forever. We're
yeah.
immortal.
It's like the Car Guys. There's a Car Guys podcast where
Exactly.
I think the two gentlemen are both deceased now, but they live on forever.
Exactly.
Because their advice was universal, right? They had universal advice. Like there's more classic cars or classically designed cars, right, than EVs out there. So until everything changes, right, you have less belts and mechanisms in the vehicle. People can always refer to their episodes. Super smart, right? So good for them. I think they're still in the top 10 of podcast downloads, period. Like people still download the episodes, still listen. So that could be us. But definitely continue to tune in. We are pretty much on all the platforms you can think of, but you can find us at the other side of the firewall, the other side of the FW, or ask CISSP if you Google those things, or you can go directly to the other side of the firewall.com or ramcyber.io, and you can hit us up there. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me pretty much on all the platforms as well, but I pretty much on LinkedIn is where you'll find me to interact with. And you, Chris?
You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Chris Abacon, last name spelled A Bacon.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.